It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me.
Craig, shut up.
Hey, I need you guys to do these things.
You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So
It's Reality Check with Craig Price. This week, Alan Cerny is here for our annual holiday movie preview. Welcome to the show. Another great holiday season is upon us. It seems like it's been upon us since before Halloween, but the real deal starts this Thursday with Turkey Day, and I wanted to give some thanks for the year the podcast has had. I want to thank all the guests that have given their time. Some like our guest today, Alan, who has done so repeatedly and without hesitation. They've come on the show and done a great job, and I've always said, without the guest, no one would listen, myself included. So thank you for the guests. I want to thank everyone for their kind well with 100th episode we had back in August. I got lots of publicity and attention due to the show, and for that I'm thankful. I'm thankful for those of you who nominated the show for the Podcast Awards and for those that actually voted for us in the finals for Best General Podcast. We're up against some stiff competition, and we really won't know the fruits of your labors until January 5th, but it's truly been a humbling experience to go through the process and see how many of you really supported the show every day for 15 days. It was amazing, and I certainly appreciate that. I'm also thankful for my clients, since my business was good enough for me not to have to go get a real job, a good full-time job somewhere that would lead me to less time devoted to the podcast. I'm extremely thankful for my beautiful wife for being so tolerant and understanding. Being married to me is no fairy tale, and I know that. So the fact that she still puts up with me after so many years does not go unnoticed, even if it may go unsaid. And finally, I'm thankful for you, the listeners. The audience continues to grow, and that is because you, the listeners, share the show with others, and I truly appreciate that. But Thanksgiving is here this week, which means families are getting together. Chocolate chip pumpkin bread is being made, especially here in the Price House. People are looking forward to a great dinner, and more importantly, weeks worth of leftovers. But with the holidays come holiday movies. So lean back in that chair, loosen that belt a little bit, grab yourself something tasty to eat, and sit down, relax, and listen to Alan and I discuss our holiday movie preview. Well, it's that time of year again. One of my favorite parts of the year. It's 3 times a year is great because this will be one of the. I think this may be either the last or second to last episode of the year. It's usually the last one, but I think that we have got something in the works. But the holiday season's coming up, which means everybody dumps every single possible film they possibly can to be Oscar nominated, but also to get the fact that a lot of kids are out of school, families are getting together. There's a lot of days off. A lot of people eating, getting fat, and want to sit down and watch things.
Exactly.
So let's get right to it because we're here with our holiday film preview, starting right off with this week. This week on Thanksgiving opens up, and we've got 2 films that we need to talk about, and there can't be more counter-programming than what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, really. That's the truth. Because one of them, there's never any... I mean, I would never take a kid to one of them, and the other one is going to have... It's pretty much going to own the family holiday season for this next one of the movies.
Yeah, we're talking about Frozen as the kids' movie. It's an animated movie. I can't figure out what it's about.
I don't either.
I keep seeing the trailers about it.
I'm supposed to know these things, and I actually have kind of... It's not a Pixar movie. It's not one of these big DreamWorks films. It's a Disney release. I know a little about the casting. I know that there's a snowman in it that looks really funny.
Yeah, Josh Gad is doing that.
I've heard really, really great things about screenings, and I get to see it very soon. I haven't seen it quite yet.
Well, this year, unlike past years where we had to kind of guess, I've actually downloaded some synopsis so when we get in trouble. It says a fearless optimist Anna teams up with Kristoff. See, again, I have no idea who the hell these people are. In an epic journey encountering Everest-like conditions and a hilarious snowman named Olaf in a race to find Anna's sister Elsa, whose icy powers have trapped the kingdom in eternal winter. So it's a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale, but of unknown origin. Probably they made it up, and so it looks like it'll probably be very typical, probably be entertaining for the kids.
Well, this year for animated movies, other than Monsters University and a couple of others, it's been kind of stale, a little weak, and I'm a fan of animated films, family films like that. And I've been told from the people who've seen this so far that this is the animated film of the year. I mean, even better than Monsters University or Pixar. So,
Really? And did they give you any indications why?
Well, it's got a really good story, but it's also really funny. And Josh Gad is the voice of the snowman, Olaf.
Josh Gad, in case you don't know, was the lead in the Mormon Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
He was also he was horrible in the President sitcom that was canceled.
I haven't seen. I know which one you're talking
when
about.
Bill
but-
Pullman and Jenna Elfman were
Yeah.
the President First Lady, and he was the son. It was that he was. I mean, he did a good job at what he was doing, but the show was awful.
He's briefly in the Steve Jobs film. He plays
Wozniak, doesn't he?
Wozniak.
Yeah.
And he's actually really good in that. I mean,
He's
it's
not a bad actor.
No, he's good. He's a good actor.
We're just
And
trying to give you
apparently-
an idea of who he is.
Yeah, and apparently he steals this movie. He's a snowman who wants to live in summer, which is not physically possible. So he has this idea that summer is this magical time of the year, and he wants to live in it. And he'd die.
Yeah,
So.
and Kristen Bell we all know Kristen Bell, and it's got Alan Tudyk, which I'm sure he's the villain because
he does really good voices too.
He plays, and he also plays smarmy bastard all the time.
Yeah.
So obviously that's the one to take the kids to. The one you want to stay away from with the kids, but you should definitely go see, is Old Boy. Mm-hmm. This is a remake of a Japanese movie.
A South Korean film.
South Korean. Well, I'm sorry, South Korean film.
It makes a difference.
Sure it does. And Spike Lee usually does his own stuff.
Yeah.
But lately he's been kind of like, I think it was starting with Inside Man.
Yeah, and
He
he's
started to do other people's stuff.
Well, first off, Spike Lee is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. This is the three greatest American filmmakers. Anybody ask me and say Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, and Spike Lee, because Do the Right Thing is one of my all-time favorite films, and a lot of his work. I don't approach Spike Lee in a way. I approach him as a film fan, and so. And Spike Lee has so much film knowledge in his movies, and it's all there. And people want to fixate on a certain aspect of his work, which is the racial stuff. But they fail to understand that Spike Lee is in deep in all sorts of types of cinema. I mean, he references so many different movies, like in Do the Right Thing, where he references Night of the Hunter, which nobody would have expected him to have referenced, but he knows it. Okay, the whole love-hate thing with the fist, that's straight out of Night of the Hunter. I mean, even movies as far abroad as, the French New Wave and Kurosawa and the stuff that was going on in American cinema. I mean, it's all there because he's so steeped in film knowledge and love. And so it's really interesting to me that he's doing Old Boy, which is a North Korean movie. It's one of the...
South Korean movie.
South Korean.
No, it makes a difference.
It makes a difference. You're right. It totally makes a difference. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Use it right back at him. Go ahead. So it's a South Korean movie. Now, the original is a weird premise.
Okay, the original film is a revenge film, and it's actually part of a trilogy of a filmmaker named Chan-wook Park, who made a movie
for
called...
the Texas Rangers, doesn't he?
That's
no. Chan-ho Park. Go ahead.
The three movies that he made were Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Old Boy, and then Lady Vengeance, or called Sympathy for Lady Vengeance. And they're all studies on revenge and how revenge affects people, how they use it, how it changes them personally. Old Boy is the centerpiece movie, and it is the masterpiece of the three. It's amazing. It's about this man who is, for no reason at all, or so he knows. He doesn't know. He's taken a hostage in the middle of the night. He's brought into this room, this prison, for 15 years. 15 years in the original film, 20 years in this one, I think.
I think more than 3 would be kind of traumatic.
Yeah.
But yes, so he has no idea why.
Well, he has no idea why.
And they never tell him.
And they never tell him. And then one day he's given a suitcase with money, some weapons and some clothes, set free, and they don't tell him why. And so he tries to piece together what has happened to him and why it's happened to him. And then there's this bigger story that's involved, and different plots upon plots. It's a brilliant, brilliant movie. It's also a really rough movie to watch. It is not a movie for the casual film goer. There are some really violent sequences in it. There's one sequence in it. I'm still in this from one of my fellow writers. His name is Jeremy Smith, Mr. Beaks on the site. And basically there's this long shot in the original film, and I'm certain they're probably going to do it in the remake, where the hero, who's named Odaisu in the movie, goes after all these guys with a hammer. And I call it the Kung Fu Master. Anybody references the Kung Fu Master video game where you would go down the sideway hall and you'd be punching him in the video game and they fall down on the floor. It's exactly like that. It's shot exactly like that. And that's not mine. That's from Mr. Beak, so I didn't steal.
So what they've done is and I'm looking at just the cast list, and right away, 3 out of the 4 I'm excited to see. The 4th one is really good. So it's not like Josh Brolin is awesome in everything.
Yes.
I mean, he's really become a quality actor. And when you think about his dad, who's kind of a hammy actor, you're like, wow, Josh is really coming to his own, because he's not afraid to. He did that Jonah Hex, which was not a great movie, but he's not afraid to be scarred for the movie.
No.
He's not afraid. Does all
that
these
was actually
roles.
a character that he sought to play. I think he liked that comic. It just didn't end up well as a film.
Right, but I mean, he's not afraid to look bad or take these roles that you normally wouldn't take. He's not trying to be the leading man, despite the fact that he is the leading man. He's trying to get really cool, interesting characters to do, which this one sounds. Samuel L. Jackson, which I believe he's contractually obligated to be in all the Avengers movies and Spike Lee movies.
Right, and if I understand correctly, his is not a very big role. It's more of almost a cameo.
A cameo, but and then Charlton Copley, who is from District 9. He is from Elysium, and when you see the two, Elysium and District 9, and you see what he did, he's so different that I start to feel like this guy's got some range.
I like him. I like him a lot in the A-Team too.
Well, I took a pass on the 18 because I wasn't a big fan of it.
No, it's it is what it is as a movie, but his performance is really fun.
No, he's good. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like he's shown that he's not just a one-trick pony with District 9, where he plays a mousy guy. He plays a psychotic killer in Elysium.
Yeah.
And the beard, I think, is half the character.
Right.
And he's also in this one, and then Elizabeth Olsen, which I've seen her name in a lot of things.
Martha, and I know I'm going to screw the name up because it's either Marcy Martha May Marlene or Martha Marcy May Marlene. That's a really great movie, and she's really great in that. And if she plays the role that I think she's playing in OldBoy, which I don't want to spoil, she should be really great in this. There's a lot of stuff going on that I can't talk about if you haven't seen the original film, because it's total spoiler, easy to spoil.
Well, maybe what you should do is go watch the remake first, and then go rent or watch on Netflix or wherever it is the original. And enjoy yourself over have a very violent Thanksgiving.
See, the thing about OldBoy to me, I'm really fascinated how Spike Lee is going to approach the material, because there's stuff in the original movie that just won't fly to Western audiences. It just won't. They're going to reject it. Okay, how Spike Lee does it in this is going to be fascinating. I don't know how close he is going to be to the movie. There are certain shots I've seen in trailers and online that look very, very close to the original. I am really fascinated. This is the one we could probably talk about for an hour. I know we got to cut it short, so I'm really fascinated about how he's going to approach this movie. I've heard really conflicting reviews about it. Some hated it and said that they cut out too much. Some loved it, and they said it just great. And I have to see this one for myself just to think about it.
Well, that's why I always tell people go see the remake first, because often it's the lesser of the two. Often, not always. And that way, if you go in there with higher expectations and go, wait a second, they didn't do this and they didn't do that, and instead you go see that and you go, oh, that was a great movie, and then you go see the original and go, holy crap.
Yeah.
That way it's a little bit reverse psycho. That way you don't have to have the expectations are lowered. You can enjoy both movies instead of having the great one ruin the remake. If it's that bad, it could be a great remake. I don't want to judge that. But
the thing for me, thing for me about that is that the studio didn't hire a hack. They could have hired anybody to make this remake movie, and they hired Spike Lee, which means that they have or at least I'd like to say they would. I mean, it's all money, but they have some sort of artistic focus in mind, and that Spike Lee is working with this material is really exciting to me, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, that's the key thing, is when good directors do things that you wouldn't expect, they would normally pawn off on the cheapest director they could find. They could still be good, but it's usually a budget issue.
Yeah.
Well, then you get to the week after, the December 6th. For some reason, a lot of limited releases, but nothing really big wide that we're going to talk about. So if you haven't planned a Christmas party, this would be the weekend to do that.
If you live in the flyover states, if you live in the big, New York or LA, you probably could go out.
Well, if you only live in LA or New York, because if you live in Seattle or Miami or Washington D.C., you're still screwed.
Yeah.
So it's not just the flyover states. So we'll skip ahead. So December 6th, the weekend of December 6th, relax, enjoy yourself.
I'll be at Butnumathon in Austin that weekend, so I will be seeing.
Will you talk about that a little bit? Because
Yeah,
really pisses
yeah.
me off that there's such a complicated and weird procedure to get to apply that I don't even apply because
Okay.
I look at it and I look it over. And for those who don't know about Button-Up-A-Thon, it is a film festival, but it's very a marathon.
Yeah,
And
it's a marathon movie.
But it's old movies, new movies, short films that you
Yeah.
would never see, foreign films that you never have a chance to see.
Crazy stuff that you'll want to rip your eyes out for having seen. My boss, the website I write for is andycool.com. And my
Oh,
boss.
and I forgot it's Alan Cerny with Ain't It Cool News. We didn't even introduce you because everyone knows who you are by now.
yeah, see, it's like having the mid credits of the movie in the middle of the movie.
Right, we had a whole got the old boy out of the way.
But Harry, every year for his birthday, he has this film festival. We call it a film party called Button-Up-A-Thon, which is 24 hour straight movies. So new movies, old movies, classic stuff, some really weird off the wall stuff, and that's a lot of fun. And that's the weekend I'll be attending it. And we have no idea what we're going to see ahead of time. And there's this big kind of a cult that is built around it now, where Harry has this really complicated. You have to jump through a lot of hoops to get into it.
Oh, it's awful. It is awful. You have to, and it's a lot of stuff you have to expose a lot of your personal life to because he's like he wants you to take weird pictures. He wants you to to write essays. Answer questions, and they're all subjective, so
Right.
he can get because I guess what he's trying to find is make sure that you are a film person, and
have
not
to
just
be-
a corporate shill that's going to come in and turn it into the Super Bowl where no fans are there. It's all corporate.
It's one of the purest, most cinematic experiences I've been to all of them but two, and one of them is because it was the very first one and I wasn't all that aware about it yet, and one of them because family stuff got in the way. But it's such a pure cinematic experience. Bad movies become good movies become great, and great movies become mind-blowingly, transcendently awesome. Okay, and just the audience is there, building up the anticipation. It's such a joyous experience. Some people, when you tell them on paper and they look 24 hours of movies, I got to sit and watch 24 hours worth of movies. I can't do that. It doesn't feel like that when you're there.
Of course, well, of course not. 'Cause
Yeah.
a good movie, like when people complain about a long movie, anyways. It's if it's a good movie, you don't know it's long.
Yeah, yeah.
And if it's a bunch of good movies, the only reason you have to get up is because you go to pee.
Yeah, there's just this electricity in the air when you're there.
There's also some funk, I'm assuming.
Oh, well, we try our best to avoid it, but there's no way around it. The nerd funk does. Towards the wee hours at 3 or 4 in the morning.
You trap. What? How many people go to that?
Oh, this year I think we're going to have like an audience of about 200.
Yeah, so you get 200
but
people trapped in a room.
Thousands apply.
Oh, I know
Yeah,
that. You
yeah.
get 200 people trapped in
Yeah.
one room. And they don't move around for 24 hours. You're gonna have some nerd funk.
There's no way around it, but you know what? It's a family thing, so it's like, well, if you're all together dirty and filthy, it's okay. You're with your family. So, but it's just one of those. There's an electricity in the air. There's just one of those moments. Man, that's what I live for every year. If I don't get to a BNAT, it feels like a limb is falling off. It's a really important day to me, and I'm really excited to be going this year.
Now, some filmmakers have taken an opportunity to premiere some things.
Yeah.
Every year, there's at least one huge movie that's not going to be released right away that they show.
Well, and this is an interesting segue into the film that we're going to talk about probably pretty soon. Peter Jackson has been to Button-Up-A-Thon. He's brought all the Lord of the Rings films. And last year he brought The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, and showed it in the high frame rate and everything. And those movies, there's a real big reason why I'm such a huge Lord of the Rings fan. BNAT's a big part of it. I've already loved the books, and I already love the source material. But because of seeing it at BNAT with that audience, it's an experience that I can never ever fully articulate how wonderful it is to me. And hopefully this year we'll be seeing Desolation of Smaug there.
Which is a great segue because that's our next film because
Yeah.
there's nothing on the 6th, which is good because you'll be at Button-Up-A-Thon, so you're
Yep.
not missing anything.
Yep.
December 13th, The Desolation of Smaug, where we're going to pit Sherlock Holmes against Watson.
Yep.
Well, at least voice to voice.
Voice to voice. That's right.
And this is obviously the sequel of a movie that came out last year, but it's one of these things where I'm not sure that it's one of a trilogy. So there's
Yeah.
another one next year.
Yep.
I'm not sure we needed 3 movies. It's great that it's long, and I didn't think it was that long when I saw it last year.
Yeah, it's
But I don't know what they're going to talk about now because they're taking a part that's not that long in the book, and they kind of expanded it.
Yeah, Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens and Guillermo del Toro wrote the script to these movies, and they've added a bunch of connective material. They didn't pull a lot of this out of the hat. This is a lot of material that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote about in other works, not necessarily The Hobbit, but in appendices and different work explaining Middle Earth. So they're sticking it all in the movie. So it's not like we're walking blind. It's not like a lot of this is created for the film, although some of it is.
Well, I'll give you an
yeah.
example because I've been seeing lots of trailers and for it. They've been showing trailers for it for a year because they showed a little tease at the end of it. Evangelina Lilly
She plays a character that didn't exist.
does
in
not
the novel.
exist.
Yeah.
She's like, and I'm speculating. I don't know. She's like Legolas's girlfriend or something, romantic interest.
Something along those lines, I think. I don't know a whole lot about her myself.
They're always together. That's all I know.
But they're together on the screen a lot, it looks like, from the trailers. And I have no problem with that. Here's the funny thing. I understand the complaints that critics and some audiences have about the Hobbit films. Yes, it's bloated. Yes, they're telling a story that didn't need to be told in this length of time. Maybe. As a critic, it's hard for me to talk about these movies like that because once you turn that movie on, I just got the extended edition that's on Blu-ray now, just came out.
Of last year's Hobbit? Okay.
Yeah, and even though that's even longer, it's 3 hours, 15 minutes roughly, or 3 hours, 20 minutes. That's about 20 or 25 added minutes of material, I believe. And it's just like sitting in an old, comfortable chair. You got a tall glass of milk. The temperature is just right, and you're sitting in your room, and you're just falling back into this world again. And it's really hard for me to be critical about it because, man, I just love this world so much. Love returning to it. Love returning to these characters. That is so comforting to me. And, man, I just fell back into it, and I love it. I don't even know if I can review The Hobbit, this movie, because I am so in love in what the work that Peter Jackson and his team have done. I'm so in love with the world that, man, it's really... It's
hard to be objective, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I do know that when they did the extended versions of the Lord of the Rings movies, which I did buy, and you watch them, and in some instances it made it actually better, because I think studios, even though he has Final Cut, and I think even Peter Jackson might even agree with this to some degree, which is why he does put stuff back in. But he's like, well, I know regular layman audiences can only do so much.
Yeah.
I would love to do this version, but I think if I scale it back just this much, it will still work where I'm happy with it, and they won't be so scared off by the long time frame.
Yeah. Well, the length for me is... yeah, I mean, it's funny. Somebody said this online this week. They said, some people have a problem with long movies, but they have no problem binge watching a television show all day.
Right.
And I could see how that is. And yes, they're long. I prefer the extended editions of the Lord of the Rings films to the theatrical ones. I think there's just more meat in there. Other than one thing in the Return of the King, which still irritates me. Other than that, all the added stuff just really brings the world to me a lot better.
Well, it was the 35 endings that kind of got me.
I don't mind the endings. There's a scene in the Return of the King where they kind of spoil the whole Army of the Dead bit. They give it away too soon,
right?
In the extended edition, and I wish they hadn't have done that. Other than that, it's perfect to me.
Well, that's why they took it out.
Yeah, it may be. They probably should have kept that out. But the extended edition of The Hobbit is wonderful. It gives Bilbo Baggins, Martin Freeman's character, more room to breathe. It goes deeper into the world, and it's so much more wonderful. And I can't wait for Desolation. See, we've been talking about all the other stuff. We haven't even talked about the movie yet.
I know,
which is going to be hopefully the best dragon on screen. It's ever, other than 1981's Dragon Slayer, which is the greatest dragon ever. But anyway,
it's my mislabeled Benjamin Cumberbun, Benedict Cumberbatch, who's fantastic.
Yeah.
And he's got the voice. I mean, if you've ever listened to him speak at all, even when he does Sherlock, and he's actually, you see his face, it kind of, his voice doesn't match his face.
Right.
It's so deep and so resonant, and they've altered it here to make it even more deeper and more dragon-y. It looks cool. It looks amazing.
It looks amazing. The thing about these movies, again, this is the second film. If you saw the first one and didn't like it, I don't know why you would go to this one. Just don't. This isn't everybody's thing. It's or
if you didn't like it and you're on the fence, then go. Because I think that's what I think most people. I don't think they dislike The Hobbit. I think they found it. It probably pushed their limits a little bit,
right?
And so they went, well, I liked some of it.
Yeah.
I never heard anybody go, oh, that was an awful film. They go, it was too long.
It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to take in.
But I don't think it's
all of them.
I haven't heard anybody say it's awful.
No.
So I think people might be able to give it a second chance. And we always know the second acts are faster and funner. And more interesting.
And in this case, we have some great battle stuff. We have a really great dragon. If it's what I think it's going to turn out to be, I'm really excited for it. And man, I was one of those people who said I didn't see how this should be 3 movies, and now at this point it's like, you know what, this is the story he wants to tell. I'm going to let him tell it, and I'm going to enjoy it no matter what. If it means I get that much more time in Middle Earth, that's fine by me.
Yeah, I just have to find out where this particular movie ends in the book, so I can catch up in my reading.
Yeah, I'm curious where it ends too. I don't know if I have my
well, I'm going to find out. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, I have my ideas, but I'm not sure.
I'm actually I do this a lot of the times with movies, with books I love that are being made into movies. I will read beforehand, what's going to happen, then I'll go see the movie. Yeah. And with this, it's like, oh, I got to put a bookmark in this and just put it down for a year, and so I'll pick it up again with plenty of time. Because I like, for me, I'm not a spoiler person.
Right.
I don't care about spoilers. For me, it's how they get there.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I am too. I am not.
Some surprises I want to keep, like some certain movies, I don't want to know a thing about. Yeah. But other movies that I'm already somewhat familiar with, I want to know. I like to know because I like to see how they got. I like the line in between the dots. Yeah. A and B. I don't care what A and B are. If I know them already, I want to know how they connect them.
Exactly. I know all about the Lord of the Rings, but if this was Star Wars, I wouldn't even be looking at anything. The new Star Wars coming, hopefully, it is coming in 2015. I'm just
December 18th, 2015. Yeah. They've got a date which already has pissed people off because it's not May.
It's fine with me. I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah. And who I thought I saw someone. Well, this is a tangent, of course, but I thought I saw someone put a. They said they needed to have the date. That's why they're fighting. Star Wars has to be out on 2015.
Yeah,
or they need a Star Wars movie. Yeah. Is how they put it.
And that year is just crazy geek stacked.
And they don't have the right script but someone said they should do a standalone first, and I think they should.
That'd be a good idea. Maybe if it's
a Boba Fett movie.
Yeah, if it's on one of the main characters that we all know and love, that would be kind of cool, and they could totally do that. But honestly, I just want to see it. I'm not the biggest J.J. Abrams fan, but he's writing the script with Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote the greatest Star Wars film of all time, Empire Strikes Back. Period. The greatest Star Wars film of all time.
Well, he also wrote one of my.
And Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, one of the best movies of all time.
Really, exactly.
Kasdan. And what was the other one that Kasdan wrote? That
well, he wrote The Big Chill. He wrote Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
He wrote. He Body Heat is a great film, and I am really confident that movie is going to be great. And at the same time, I'm going to say I'm backing off of this. I'm not going to read anymore. I'm going to let them tell the story they want to tell, and just let them do it.
Yeah, they're just. I also love to see the since we're now in a 24-hour. We have to have a scoop news kind of thing.
Yeah.
Ain't it cool plays that game a little bit?
We do.
But not nearly as much as it used to, but not nearly as much as some other ones who try to scoop themselves.
Yeah.
So I like to see the critics or the scoopers, eat themselves with their information, especially when they're wrong constantly. It's
a little fun to watch, but I try to stay out of that kind of stuff.
Oh, I know you do. That's why you're above that stuff.
I'm above
You're not a scooper.
No.
You're not. You're
Although, if you give me good information, I will use it.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. So if anybody out there with any information who actually is a credible source, let us know. So that one's definitely going to dominate the 6th. So then we move to the 18th.
Right.
December 18th has a David O. Russell movie.
Yeah.
Which always are interesting.
Yeah.
And this one's called American Hustle. And all I have seen is stills from the movie.
The poster. I've not seen a trailer yet. I kind of don't want to watch this trailer.
I've seen all the pictures. It has Christian Bale in it, Bradley Cooper, Amy Adams, Jennifer Lawrence, and it's based in the 70s.
Yeah, and
a
lot of people
all have the 70s look.
And they've all worked with David O. Russell, over the years. And
let's see. I think we've every single one of these people has been nominated in a Russell movie, haven't they?
I think so.
Christian Bale
won. Did he won? Yeah, he won for The Fighter. That's right.
Yep. Jennifer Lawrence won.
Yeah, she won. And
for the Silver Linings Playbook,
which I didn't care for.
I did not either.
So
I thought it was okay, but and then Bradley Cooper was nominated.
And Amy Adams was. I believe she was nominated too for The Fighter.
I think so. Yeah. I know she's been nominated in the past.
Yeah. So and they're all coming together in this film, and it's a crime film set in the 70s. And I love the look of it. It looks great.
Christian Bale has the worst comb over.
It's awesome. It's so good, and he's gained all this weight too.
Yeah, he's got a gut.
And he is just like this physically uber actor who can go real thin in a movie like The Machinist, then build all this bulk up for Batman, and then he's just. There's got to be some sort of a physical punishment at some point. He may be paying for it later in the 50s or 60s. When he may be paying for all the
powder blue leisure suit with the butterfly collars.
Yeah,
and Bradley Cooper's got a fro.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be great. He's got this. I mean, just by seeing that movie and knowing the people are involved, without even telling you the plot, which is what they say is a con man, along with a seductive British partner, is forced to work for the wild FBI agent. Damasio Richie Damasio. Damasio pushes them into a world of Jersey pawnbrokers and mafia. So we've got Jersey in the 70s with all these great people in it. So whatever it is, I'm going.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good film. I'm pretty confident in saying. I haven't heard anybody seeing it in screenings yet, although it has screened. But it's just the poster is enough to sell it for me. I mean, it's just the way they look. It's like, okay, well, he's really trying for something either over the top or authentic, in its way. But
I heard Jennifer Lawrence is good enough to be nominated again.
I've heard Amy Adams is amazing too.
Well, I mean, Amy Adams is usually pretty good, and she's gotten to the point where she's consistently good now. But I think thanks to the Hunger Games, not that she's bad in the Hunger Games, but it's one of those, she's a blockbuster person, and then she goes to these little movies, and then she goes back to her Hunger Games.
Yeah.
I don't think she gets the credit she deserves for acting.
No.
And so I think...
she's a very good actress. And there's a movie, the movie that kind of burst her on the scene is this little film called Winter's Bone, which is really amazing. Fantastic movie. And the only reason I didn't care for the Silver Linings Playbook, well, there's a lot of reasons. I thought the ending felt too pat. The whole movie felt too pat to me. I don't think this is that kind of movie. But the age difference between Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper, I just could not make
creepy.
that leap.
It was creepy.
I don't. The way everybody looks in this one, I don't know how they're related in this one. I don't really see a problem with this.
And you have a daughter, so especially when you see a younger person with an older guy, it's uber creepy for you.
Yeah, it's a bit creepy, but it's okay. It's onward and upward, and it looks like a really good film.
Now, you also want to talk this week about a small movie that's coming out that I don't know much about called Her.
Yeah, it's directed by Spike Jonze.
Well, I know Spike Jonze.
Yeah, and
Three Kings was fantastic.
Yeah, he's great in that. The films that he's directed, Where the Wild Things Are, is one of my favorite movies.
Being John Malkovich.
That's a great film. Adaptation is a great film, and this is another film which sounds really interesting, and I'm curious to see how they do it. Joaquin Phoenix plays a character who I believe he's a widower. I can't be certain. I don't know a whole lot about. I know enough about the plot, but either he's a widower or he's broken up, and he kind of sort of falls in love with his computer, who is voiced by Scarlett Johansson. And Amy Adams is also in this film.
So it's like a Siri situation where he's fallen in love with his computer.
Well,
based on
the trailer, he downloads this new Windows interface on his computer. It has his voice. It's supposed to match his personality and his life. Okay, and after he downloads it, the voice comes out of this computer. It's Scarlett Johansson, and she's. Ever see the movie Electric Dreams back in the 80s?
Long time ago.
You know what I'm talking about?
I have a vague recollection of that movie.
Yeah. Well, it seems like a modern.
I thought you were going to go with Simone with Al Pacino.
Oh, yeah. No. I'm even going further back. There's a weird kind of vibe of that film in this, but I'm certain it's probably not going to go that way. And man, I think it looks great. I love Spike Jonze. I love his films. I've heard enough really great things about this movie. Some people are putting on their top of the year list for how much it works. And there's a quirkiness and a personality to his movies that I just really dig. And this one seems interesting and a different kind of subject. And Joaquin Phoenix is pretty much a chameleon at this point, and he could play anything. And this sounds like a really fascinating, kind of sweet movie. The trailer looks really sweet, and
hopefully he comes back to normal. Because he's been the last 3 or 4 movies.
Yeah, but that was all kind of an act, I think.
No, but the last 3 or 4 movies, he's
yeah.
been in these bizarre characters.
Yeah,
and bring him back to reality. Because now when you think this is a strange, eclectic character, let's get Joaquin Phoenix. We don't get romantic comedy. We want a good actor. Which I think he's going to need to come back to because you can't find the crazy pictures that are mainstream every day.
No,
and he's not bad. I mean, he's actually a good actor.
He's amazing,
just as a regular person.
Yeah, he's amazing in The Master, and I'm really glad that he's back on screen, and I'm really curious to see this movie. I've heard so many good things about it that I'm really kind of jonesing to see it. And like I said, Spike Jonze is just amazing filmmaker who has got a real interesting perspective on just life, and it's just, I mean, this is the guy who made a beautiful film like. Being John Malkovich in Adaptation and Where the Wild Things Are, and then he co-writes a movie like Jackass Bad Grandpa. I mean, his total dichotomy here. It's really interesting as a director to watch.
He does make interesting choices, and December 20th, as we move forward, it starts to get busy.
Yeah, there's a great movie that week.
There's several great movies, I think.
Yeah.
We're going to start with one that was in limited release that comes out in full force on the 20th, and that is Coen's Brothers, Inside Llewyn Davis.
Yeah, I can't wait to see that.
And I'm not sure if this is I don't know anything about the scene.
Basically,
is it a real person or is it a fictional avatar that they kind of created?
It's kind of a fictional avatar that they've kind of based their take. It's about the folk community in the 60s in New York.
Greenwich Village.
Greenwich Village. And Oscar Isaac plays Llewyn Davis, who's trying to break into the business. He's kind of a quirky guy, as you are in most Coen films. You know, most people are
in every Coen film.
Yeah, pretty much every Coen film. Yeah, maybe except every one of them.
Yeah,
right?
And you were gonna say something. You realize, oh no, that guy went crazy too.
yeah. And the Coens are when I said the three greatest American directors, I should put four because those guys are there just as well as
they are one entity.
Yeah, pretty much. They're the same guy, but any Coen film that comes out is cause for celebration, and you have to pay attention. There's just no way around it. It's interesting. The Coens have won so many awards, and one of the awards that they're winning is the Houston Film Critics Society, of which I'm a member. We voted them a Lifetime Achievement Award, and I get to write the speech for that in January. And I've already trying to figure out how do I encapsulate these directors in like 3 minutes, and it's like they've done so many different things. I think the only genre they haven't tackled is like porn,
and one of the things that they do so well is like with "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" They actually started a revival of that music,
and this one will do the same.
And that's where I was getting at. This one seems like it's going to be all that stuff with Bob Dylan and the Beatniks and all that stuff in the late 50s, early 60s. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be, you're going to hear a lot of that music in the next year and a half.
The soundtrack, I mean, by the time this podcast, it should be out, but right now it's streaming on NPR, and I've heard a little of it, and it's really good. Really good soundtrack. It's going to be one of those soundtracks that people are going to want to have. I mean, I remember when Old Brother, they had a tour of some of those artists. They may do that this time too.
That's what I'm thinking, because that's what they're so good at is setting tone, and setting time and place.
Yeah,
that and then putting weird characters in that, because if they make the environment believable like they do, then the weird things can happen.
Yeah. And I don't know how weird this movie is going to be.
Assuming.
Yeah, in comparison to their other stuff. But I mean, obviously, it's a Coen Brothers movie. You got to pay attention, and they never do the same movie twice. Never. So it's. I mean, when one movie is released that they've made, they're already on the next subject, and they're so versatile and prolific. This one's going to be one of those. It's going to be a year ender for me, definitely. I mean, I always anticipate a Coen film, and it looks just great, and a lot of great people are in it. Justin Timberlake, and apparently he turns a really great performance.
John Goodman. Apparently, from what I understand, he sings a great song in it.
Yeah,
someone was praising his, because they listened to it. Was praising his.
See, I didn't know he sang a song in it.
That's what
I'm
heard.
trying to. Coen Brother movies. Like I said earlier, Coen Brother movies are those kind of movies where I kind of step away and try to back off and not know a lot about them.
I certainly understand that. Well, before we get to the big one that I want to see, the next one is Saving Mr. Banks, and this is the story of Walt Disney and author P.L. Travers, who wrote Mary Poppins, and how they fought and how they made Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know him, but I read him constantly. Drew McWeeny, Drew, great reviewer.
Yeah.
He liked the movie, but he also has some issues with the movies, because I just read his review the other day. It is Disney talking about Disney.
Yeah.
It's a Disney movie making about Disney, and it's about conflict.
You know already right off the bat, it's Disney talking about Disney. Some of the other things are not going to be talked about so much. See, and it's weird to talk about this movie. I'm definitely on board to see it.
Oh, it's got Tom Hanks.
Yeah, Tom Hanks.
Emma Thompson, who's back to. I think she's going to be great in it, because she is a writer.
Yeah.
About a writer. I think this is right up her alley. They've got
Jason Schwartzman's one of the actors.
Schwartzman's and B.J. Novak play the two brothers that wrote the music.
Yeah.
Colin Farrell's in it.
Yeah.
I like how they did this just for Tom Hanks. And it says stars. It says Ruth Wilson. Yeah.
Well, yeah. She's the only reason she wasn't in Captain Phillips is I don't think they could pass her off as a pirate.
Yeah. But I think what's going to happen is it seems it's going to be a whitewashed version, a well-acted, well-made, whitewashed version of conflict, which it's hard to do. Because Walt Disney and Travers were fighting constantly.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, Disney was not the nicest guy in this situation.
No, and see the thing for me. Yes, this is Disney making a story about Disney, so you got to know going in automatically that they're not going to go into the stranger aspects of Walt Disney. I mean, all the things you hear rumored and all the things he did in his life. Okay, and yet at the same time, I also don't think that anybody's going to tell a story that's all the way to the other side, where it's like Walt Disney is, just few, grades shy of Hitler, which isn't true. Okay,
no,
it's somewhere
also,
in the middle.
And a lot of that stuff doesn't have to do with this particular
it doesn't.
story,
It doesn't.
so it doesn't need to be there. But I also know in this particular case,
Yeah.
of getting the rights to Mary Poppins and trying to create a musical from that, there was a lot of fighting and a lot of bitterness.
Yeah,
even after it was produced.
What I want to see out of this film is that about how through conflict, great art can be made. And I get the idea that that's what. That's what this is about. And I'm sure there's tons of great gossip about Walt Disney. Okay, everybody knows the story or the rumors, like his head is frozen somewhere, so when they can
right next to Ted Williams, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I watch Futurama. I know exactly what happened to his head.
So all this stuff about him, his personal life, and then this is a story that Mary Poppins is a very beloved film, as rightfully it should be, and this is a story that's got a lot of people interested. I am curious. To me, in the end, the movie is the movie, and all that stuff is on the side. And if the movie works and you're in the world of the film, I am not one of those people when you see a biopic that I have to know every aspect about it, of the truth of what really happened or how the person really was in real life. Like
it's not a documentary.
Yeah, like Captain Phillips. You hear all this stuff about how the crew. After the film came out, how the crew was saying, well, that's not a very accurate performance or an accurate description of what really happened. That stuff doesn't matter. The movie's got to be the movie. You got to let the movie be the movie. And in the end, it's all fiction. It's all fiction because the movie can't be reality. Reality is just not possible in a film, not even in a documentary. So if the movie works, then it doesn't matter. And I've heard. One critic, one of my favorite critics, Devin Faraci, saw it. I saw on Twitter, and he really
opinions of him.
Yeah, but, a lot of people don't care for Devin. I love Devin to death. I don't always agree with him. In fact, about half the time, I violently disagree with him. But the man can write, and that's what I really appreciate about him. And he liked Saving Mr. Banks. He thought it worked.
Oh, and even Drew liked it. It's one of those things where he liked it, but he also, since he's in the entertainment industry, and this is not an unknown story.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, Travers was not the most pleasant woman either. So it was actually two rather unpleasant people fighting.
Yeah.
And Disney's making a movie about it. So everybody gets whitewashed in this
thing.
And
movies about movies tend to or movies about movie making tend to, audiences kind of shy away a little from it because it's all a little inside baseball. I like those kind of films, but, I like everything genre-wise, and I'm curious to see how this works.
Oh, I think it's going to be great.
The people who've seen it that I've talked to, who I trust, really liked it. Whether or not it's reality is kind of beside the point.
2 words, Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I mean, I will go see anything Tom Hanks does until I die.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling he's going to outlive me.
And who else is the Disney company going to cast as Walt Disney but Tom Hanks? I mean, they're not going to cast
Clooney.
Yeah, they're not going to cast. They're not going to cast actor. They wouldn't cast Joaquin Phoenix as Tom.
Philip Seymour Hoffman. As the grumpy Walt Disney.
They're going to cast the great all-American actor to play the great all-American icon mogul guy. Okay, that's just the way it's going to be, and it makes sense on a marketing perspective to do that. So,
well, since we're not talking about reality.
Yeah.
Let's get to the last movie that's coming out on the 20th.
Oh, yes. The movie I am so excited to see. This is the movie of the year for me.
It's Anchorman 2.
Yes, Anchorman 2. Oh, my God. I can't wait to see this movie. You have to understand, I saw when Anchorman first came out and I saw it in the theater, and I was like, this is one of the greatest comedies of all time. If you disagree with me on this point, stay away from me. Because I will not like you. I'm not trying to be mean.
No,
but
it's one of the most... people say they don't like it, and yet it's the most quoted movie that you hear nowadays.
Oh, my God. It's so wonderful.
Stay classy, San Diego. Everybody says that when somebody does something stupid.
Well, the one... And this is getting really weird. The one line that I quote with my wife all the time, if we see something on the, we see something really interesting on the, like if we're driving or something, I'll point it out and go, "Look, it's the most beautiful rainbow ever," and she'll always say, "Do me on it," you know.
Stay classy there.
It's just one of my favorite movies, and it looks like Miracle of Miracles because comedy sequels 90% of the time don't work.
And sequels that happen a decade later,
they normally don't work, and this one looks like it works. It looks like it works like gangbusters, and I'm so excited to see it. The trailers, I've devoured them. I don't know a lot about the plot. Okay, take it back. I know enough about the plot to know how it works, but I don't know a lot of the details, which is fine. And oh my goodness, I cannot wait to see, because I love all those actors. I love Will Ferrell. I love Steve Carell. I love David Koechner. I love
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd. Yeah, I should know that.
But
I love all those people.
But they've got Kristen Wiig, who is going to be basically the counterpart, the female counterpart of Brick.
Yeah.
Stephen Carell's character. Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford, man. How'd they get him to be in this?
Well, I've been listening to interviews with him, interviews with Drew, and he seemed like he was excited, but he keeps on talking. He goes, I have no idea what was going on.
And I can believe that, because Adam McKay, man,
he does so many takes that they can actually do a second or third movie just on alternate takes.
And I've heard, I mean, on the rumor mill, I've heard there's actually I've heard all sorts of things. They did so many takes of this movie that they're actually going to do an alternate Anchorman film with alternate takes.
Well, they did that with the Legend of Ron Burgundy when they did the last one.
Yeah, and I heard rumors that they actually filmed a second movie so that they'll have an Anchorman 3 from the footage they made out of Anchorman 2. I don't know how true that is, but I'm sure they shot a ton of footage. Because if you let these guys go in comedy and they're just going to go, you want to catch every moment, you know.
And it's probably cameos galore now because everybody wants to be a little bit of part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that Vince Vaughn is back.
Yeah.
And Vince Vaughn played a competing Anchorman.
Yeah.
But it has everybody who's back.
Yeah.
And that was why it took so long, is because everybody blew up after that movie.
Well, also, Paramount, you know, it took a few years because it didn't become a cult classic right away. I remember
DVD saved it.
Yeah, when I saw it in the theater, it's like, wow, this is next level comedy stuff. And then, you know, it didn't die in the theater, but it did okay. But it didn't really pick up until you know, cable and DVD. And it's funny because I hear that a lot of news anchors and a lot of news organizations, man, Anchorman is like always playing. They're always quoting Anchorman, you know. And one of the brilliant things about Anchorman 2 and Anchorman, and people don't realize this, well, Adam McKay is he's a very social filmmaker. He actually has social points to the movies he makes. He's kind of left. But
Kinda.
you know, yeah, you know, like
he's
the other
extremely
guys, which is going actually into the economic problems of 2008 and the crash, which goes into that, and you know, and this one is about how we haven't dumbed down for the news dumbed us down. Yeah, and he's got a valid, fair point. If you watch the news from back in the 70s and even the 80s, and you watched, you know, like Nightline or Nightly News and the news that they were giving us at the time, and now they don't give us that anymore.
No, they give us opinions.
Yeah, they give us...
Or my favorite is when you watch CNN is that they start talking about the tweets that people put in.
Yeah.
Because we know that sane, rational people have all day to watch news instead of work. And so at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, people tweeting in are usually extremists from both sides, or just antisocial
or
recluses.
you pick the channel that suits your worldview, which makes no sense because the news should be just the news, okay?
Right.
And this is a movie that kind of looks at that, and I think that's amazing for a comedy, which has people bitten in the mouth by scorpions and on the trailer, and you know, and deep fryers, and Steve Carell screaming 93 the whole time. I mean, it looks silly as hell, and yet they're focusing on this theme, and I think it's wonderful. I mean, it may well be one of the best films of the year. I love when movies dive into theme like that, and yet they're still great movies, you know.
Also wants you to temper your expectations.
Yeah, it's hard.
When things like this happen, even when it's good, we in our brains we go, it's going to be so great that we kind of go, oh, that was all right. When actually it was probably really good, but we just went in thinking it was going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be hard for me. It's going to be hard for me, especially like I said, comedy sequels. A lot of times, man, they Ghostbusters 2. Anyone, you know, it's no Ghostbusters. You know, Caddyshack 2. That's barely a movie.
Oh
you know?
God. Well, that's why with comedies, because the way comedy works, and it's usually show them one thing and then spin it around and surprise people to get them laughing. I do stay away from comedies because when they put all the jokes in the trailer, which they didn't, they couldn't have because
there's no way in this,
right?
Yeah,
but the stuff you see in the trailer is hilarious. Mm-hmm. So I'll try to keep away from that. That's an example of a movie where spoilers will bother me because you're just ruining the joke.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. It should be super exciting. And then, of course, the probably the biggest movie day of the season, which seems weird, but my wife and I go every Christmas, December 25th.
Yeah, and it's going to be a big day that day.
We've got 3 movies that cover a wide area, so if you should be able to find something.
Yeah, you've got...
Well, the first off we'll build towards Oscars.
Yeah.
Well, the first one it is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Yeah, and
I grew up loving the Danny Kaye version.
yeah, that's a great
It used to
film.
be on HBO all the time.
Uh-huh.
And I've seen that movie 30 times. I probably haven't seen it in 40 years.
I haven't been seeing it in a long time, but I remember when I first saw it when I was really young, actually. And it felt like a movie that was made for me because we all have our inner life. Our inner fantasy world is totally different than what reality is. And I love movies like that. And this one, it feels like a movie that's really personal for me, and I'm going to have a really personal reaction to it. And at the same time, I don't know how good the movie is going to be. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's Ben Stiller, who is definitely a hit or miss person.
Yeah. Well, there's some movies that
I directed it too.
Yeah. And well, see, the thing that gives me hope is because although Ben Stiller's films with him, he didn't direct them, are kind of on the mainstream kind of bland side. The ones that he did make, that he directed, Dodgeball. Well, he didn't direct Dodgeball, but Dodgeball's great. But Tropic Thunder is a lot of fun.
That was really good.
The films that he seems to take an active part in making, like Zoolander, that's a good comedy. And he's taken a part in this, which makes me think that he's really invested and he's really going to give not only a good performance but make a good movie. And I really like what I've seen so far. But as I was saying, there are movies that I take a real personal interest in that make it difficult as a critic to respond to. This is going to be one of those, I can tell. I just know a movie, when it pushes my buttons, you can see in the trailer already that it's going to push my buttons personally, and this is going to be one of those.
So what's jumping out in the trailer that you think is going to push a button?
Well, just
because I've seen the trailer and I'm kind of...
Well, the way the music was in the trailer kind of did it, and there's a shot where you see Walter Mitty running down the hall, and the posters of the Life magazine covers are going by, and you could see his face in them. And it's obviously either a fantasy sequence or it's segueing from reality into fantasy. And I just thought, wow, that's really, really well done. That's really interesting. There's a couple of key shots when he's up north. I guess he's looking for Sean Penn's character because he made they're looking for, it's going to be the last Life magazine cover ever because the internet's destroyed everything, right? So he's looking for a particular photograph to put on the cover, and it makes him go. And he has this huge fantasy life where he's like the centerpiece of everything he does. He has his mind of it, an adventure, even though he can't, in reality, he can't bring himself to barely talk to people. And then he's kind of sent on this little quest, and it expands his world. There's just moments in the trailer where it's like, well, I don't know if they're just being quirky or if it's something that's going to really resonate with me. And like a couple of key shots just really, it's hard for me to describe. It's kind of just really clicked for me. I like the trailer a lot, and I've talked to some people who I've talked to some people who saw it who just did not like the movie. Said, "Man, this is it's too twee." You know the word I'm saying? TWEE, twee. It's like it's so full of itself. It's full of itself.
Oh yeah, okay.
And they didn't care for it. And then I saw some people who just loved it, and I could tell watching the trailer that this is going to be a movie where I'm going to have to defend myself in a weird way. I have not seen it. I don't know how good it's going to be. I'm really excited to see it, and I'll just leave it at that pretty much.
So a potentially polarizing film.
I think it is. I think it's a very polarizing movie.
Well, that's great. Let's go right to... That's always good. Let's go have some animosity at Christmas time. Because where half the family loves it, the other half thinks...
All the critics hate each other anyway. We're going to have animosity anyway. We'll all have big fists, big Anchorman fights in the street over Walter Mitty.
That escalated quickly.
That's right.
The next one is going to be a much more... And I'm going to try to say this in the nicest way because I don't mean it disrespectful because I often say things and people take it the wrong way. Mm-hmm. This one's going to be more of the mindless, fun, amazing, cool 47 Ronin is called.
I hope it's amazing cool.
'Cause it's Keanu Reeves.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's 47 Ronin automatically makes you think, oh, it's going to be some kind of kung fu samurai movie. Mm-hmm. But then there's a big ass dragon in the middle of it.
Well, 47 Ronin is based on a old Japanese legend slash historical moment where a bunch of Ronin, which are samurai without masters, go after one of these masters that killed their former master. Okay, and so when a master has all the samurai who was his team, when he dies, they all become masterless samurai Ronin, which are kind of like socially not cool. And so they over the years they plot how to go get back at this guy, and it's a story that's been told many times in Japanese cinema. This is obviously a different take on it because there's obviously no such thing as dragons, unfortunately.
What? Spoiler alert, man!
Right. Well, there's a book. Okay, I'm coming from my my.
Next thing you know, Pete's Dragon, all fictional is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
The hell would you say?
Hell with
I don't
you,
want
sir.
to talk to you anymore.
Well, okay.
Alan Cerny's last appearance.
Yeah. I'm
No.
sorry. Okay, the way I described the trailer when I saw it is like, okay, this is really letting my geek flag fly. I play Dungeons and Dragons, and there's a book that came out called Oriental Adventures, which was written by the guy who wrote Dungeons and Dragons, and basically it's a campaign set in Japan, where you can become samurai or ninjas or whatever, and the trailer looked like that book exploded on screen, and it looks totally geeky, and I'm probably going to dig it. And that's one of my favorite film genres is samurai films. So I'm really excited to see it. Although some of the talk that's been coming out, when everybody compares themselves to Kurosawa, that sends up red flags for me.
This guy now, did he say homage or did
Well,
he
he
compare
said
himself?
he called the film Kurosawa on meth. And,
Did he call it that, or did
no, he said that, but
the
I'm
direct-
sure that's something that came up in the marketing department.
Carl
They said, hey,
Reese,
say
the
this.
director said that.
Yeah. This is something he said, but that's something
Yeah.
probably the marketing. I'm not saying, and when you're going to compare yourself to the greatest filmmaker who ever lived, and he is, you're sitting yourself on a pedestal that you will not be able to climb down from.
You gotta have some big brass balls to do that. my
And
friend.
Kurosawa is my favorite filmmaker. Seven Samurai is probably it's always Fighting with E.T. is my favorite film of all time.
And it's the most copied movie of all time.
Yeah, everybody's copied it. And this will probably do so as well. 47 Ronin, of course, even got 7 in the title. But, it's based on that old story. But I'm excited to see it. I love that it's got an entirely new take on the legend. I love that. I mean, I even love the Keanu Reeves as part of it. I think, for one thing, if you haven't seen Man of Tai Chi yet, you should watch it. It's really, really good. It's a great kung fu movie, and Keanu Reeves is really great in it. He directs it impeccably well. And so this really actually, after how good that movie turned out to be, I'm really interested in this movie now, when I wasn't so much before. But I want it to be cool. I want it to be fun. I have no idea what it's going to turn out to be because I've heard the shoot took forever. There's a lot of problems when they made the film. But the film is the film, and when it comes out, we'll see how it is.
Well, that leaves us with the last one of the year. I'm sure there's probably something that'll sneak in or get moved.
Yeah.
We were going to talk about Monument Men, and that's moved to
they
February.
moved out.
And I was excited. I was really actually...
That one I want to see bad.
Just because Bill Murray and George Clooney and
in
John...
In a heist movie. In a
Nazi heist movie.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be great.
But
and
that's not happening.
Yeah,
so
next year.
There may be things that sneak in because, that always happens to us, G.I. Joe, for our summer one. But this one is actually been moved up.
It was going to be in November, and now it's December.
Yeah, well, they want to make sure that it got in time for... They had to do some edits or something, but they wanted to make sure that it was there for Oscar season.
Yeah.
It's called The Wolf of Wall Street. It's Scorsese, DiCaprio, who have starting to become... He's become his new De Niro.
Pretty much.
I guess he only goes with guys named
if
D.
you want to I guess if you want to be technical about it, he may have actually been in more Scorsese films than De Niro. I'm not...
I think it's getting close.
If they're not tied,
it's getting fairly close.
Yeah.
And it's DiCaprio. Jonah Hill's in it.
Yeah.
Who plays DiCaprio's best pal.
Yeah.
And it is about stockbrokers in the 80s.
Yeah, and you could just tell it's going to be full of that great Scorsese sleaze, where everything, even though people are doing disgusting things on screen, the way Scorsese shoots it, it looks like a ballet. I'm uber excited to see this film.
This is the one that people were complaining about being too long. That pissed you
Yeah,
off.
yeah. And, a movie is as long as it has to be. If it's too short, if
it's Scorsese.
Yeah, you let the man paint his picture.
But his movies are not short.
Yeah.
And to sit there and not even see it and complain about the length shows just stupidity.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
look,
what movie that a great movie that he's made isn't long.
when you have an artist sit down to paint on a canvas, who cares how big the canvas is? He could paint on a postage stamp, and it could be a beautiful piece of art.
I know,
he could paint on the Sistine Chapel ceiling, and it's a beautiful piece of art. It makes no difference. Let the movie be the movie.
I'm just letting the internet bother me, and I shouldn't, because this is the inherent problem with the internet: is that you have a person who has not just the breadth of work, the consistency of work, and we know that almost all of his movies are at minimum 2 hours and 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
That's a short movie.
Yeah.
And they're complaining about the length when it comes to Martin Scorsese.
Right.
Now, Jon Favreau, who's actually in the movie, if you want to complain about his movie being too long, well, he's never made a movie that long. So maybe something's justifiable in that.
Yeah.
But you can't take one of the masters and say, "Oh, this is too long." That's like, Monet, why are you painting so many damn flowers?
Yeah.
It's like, you idiots.
Yeah, you're missing the point. I can't wait to see it.
It looks great.
I'm curious because they were editing to the last minute, and Thelma Shoemaker is Scorsese's editor, and she is just one of the greatest editors of all time. And they were struggling to get the tone down. I'm never gonna go. I mean, it may end up not working. Who knows? I can't imagine it not working. Everything I've seen in the trailers, I've enjoyed. I mean, Scorsese had the. I love that Scorsese actually somebody in marketing took the time to cut a trailer to a Kanye West song, and it's just it's all just powerhouse.
They learned that from the last DiCaprio with the Laz Berman's Gatsby.
Yeah, it's one of those really great visceral trailers that I dug a lot. I'm excited as hell to see it. I can't imagine anybody who loves cinema would not be. There's no way. And you can complain how long it is. I mean, who cares?
No, you can't. Not until you see it.
Yeah.
Because there are movies that are 88 minutes that feel like a lifetime.
Yeah.
And there are movies that are 3 hours and 10 minutes that you wish continued on. Lord of the Rings, example.
Yeah. I could, it doesn't matter. And it looks really funny. It looks like Scorsese's going into some it practically looks like a comedy.
That could be the trailer cut too.
That could be, but there's some of the stuff and the dialogue they're saying, and Matthew McConaughey doing that thing in the trailer when he's beating on his chest. And McConaughey, it's like having a great year this year too.
McConaughey's, I can't even talk about his thing is that he has just redone his entire career.
Yeah,
because he's no longer the all right guy.
Yeah.
He's actually acting, and I'm looking forward to.
They call it the McConaissance online.
I'm waiting for his HBO miniseries with
that's
Woody
gonna
Harrelson.
Be so good.
Overall, it looks like there are less movies, but higher quality movies.
I think so. And that's always the weird balance when it comes to the seasonal films like this. As far as the summer goes, I dug more than I didn't. I enjoyed a lot more movies than I didn't. The movies that I really took to heart, I don't, like Pacific Rim was my favorite film of the summer, and obviously it wasn't a lot of people's favorite film.
I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I thought they did the best cliche work I've ever seen. They took every cliche and polished it.
Yeah.
Which that was my biggest thing. And when I did my little 140 character review,
Yeah.
was basically this is how you can do cliches correctly.
Yeah.
And they did it
Just
every
because-
single thing. I knew exactly. I mean, I didn't know the plot of it
Yeah.
besides robots and monsters, but I
Yeah.
kind of knew every step of the way what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because they did it with such energy.
If you're enjoying the journey that you're on, who cares if you know where you're going?
Right.
That was the aspect of that movie that I really enjoyed. And the summer as a whole was pretty good. It wasn't like last year. Last year's summer,
And I think it's next year's going to blow it out of the water.
yeah, next year's got a lot of great stuff, and 2015 is going to be incredible. This fall, though, pound for pound, is one of the best seasons I've come across yet.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about that a lot because a lot of great things came out in October. I saw October movies in September.
Yeah.
That Gravity.
Ooh. Oh, God, yeah, that's amazing.
I still get chills when I see the commercials.
It's amazing.
That's
one movie I don't even know if I can buy. Why? Why would you watch it at home? I mean,
like
that's
Avatar.
One,
Avatar.
That's one where they should always have it playing in some cinema in town somewhere. Where,
only on IMAX though.
Yeah, and it should always be in a constant loop playing somewhere. At least if just one theater, so you can go experience that again. Captain Phillips was great. 12 Years a Slave is amazing movie.
And that'll be probably dominating our first of the year.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Oscar talk. I'm
I can
sure.
imagine.
But overall, I thought this year was again another good one. I think it's getting better, and I think TV is because of that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think the
I do.
competition
I
from
do too.
television, the Breaking Bads of the world, the Boardwalk Empires of the world.
I do too.
I think that is forcing movie directors to go, hey, and movie companies to go, we can't just put that stuff out there and they'll go because there's nothing good on TV.
Yeah, and you know the way 3D has kind of failed. It hasn't failed, but it hasn't done as well as people had hoped this year. And people are just wanting to see great stories again. And great stories will always get you over, no matter how well the movie does at the box office. It gives them another movie. If you have a great story told really well, the movie will have a life beyond the theater. It's going to have a life in the hearts and minds of millions of people who see it. And I see that as this part of this year. I think this year is a very, very quality year. It was underrated. I don't think people gave the year what its due when it was coming out. And now all these great movies, really movies that I have no problem recommending to anybody, just pound for pound this fall winter has been fantastic. And I can't wait to see the rest of this stuff.
In good or bad, Gravity has made 3D alive for at least another 2 years.
Yeah, it has.
Because it did so well at the IMAX 3D, which it should have. And what I felt bad is I'm a big Neil deGrasse Tyson follower, and
he was pissing me off.
Yes, but the problem was he liked the movie.
Yeah. But I mean,
and so people got upset because he was just correcting some stuff.
Yeah,
and even he's like, "I'm just correcting things." It was a great movie.
You can't read for tone on the internet, especially when you're looking at a tweet. There's no tone. It's just, and when you see it just come in your face, like, well, it makes you feel, because everything comes personal, because we're all looking for approval, on the internet, and so everything comes personal to you when you read it. And so his tweets came across as just really being smug and annoying. And he wasn't trying to be. But that's just how they came across, and that's why people got pissed off. And I got pissed off,
I didn't, because I listen to his podcast all the time.
Yeah.
So I know what he was trying to do. And I also know that he liked the movie. And there's been a lot of great movies. This is always a great time. I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving and a good holiday.
You too.
And we will talk to you soon. And probably be right after the first year, we got to sit down and figure out all this Oscar crap.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough next year.
It'll be tough. I'm pretty confident I know the movie that's probably going to dominate this year. I think it's going to be 12 Years a Slave. Yeah. That's probably going to be the one that dominates. Unless Wolf of Wall Street blows everybody away, which it very well could.
I still think 12 Years a Slave. It's just because you can always tell sometimes just by content.
Yeah.
Certain things resonate with more people than others.
It's not Oscar bait. It's a really
no.
Strong,
it's not Oscar bait.
No. It's a really strong, powerful movie told really well, and if you're going to be named Steve McQueen by your kids, which is the name of the director, you have something to live up to, and he definitely lived up to the name, his directing work in that film.
Well, there's a little extra for you, so have a good holiday. Let's go get some eggnog lattes. That's our show for this week. As always, it's a pleasure to have Alan on the podcast. Don't forget, the season is coming to a close, and I'll need guests for next year, so email me guest suggestions, comments, or questions to Craig@SpeakerCraigPrice.com. Follow the show at RealityCheckPod on Twitter, or subscribe to the newsletter at RealityCheckPodcast.com. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.